I hope that you're well, and I also hope that you are having an amazing day so far. Today, we'll be doing our grade 4 English lesson on reflexive pronouns. So, we'll be doing our grade 4 English lesson on reflexive pronouns. And before we start with our lesson on reflexive pronouns, we're going to log into aplusstudents.ca. Once we've logged on to aplusstudents.ca with our username as well as our password, and then we're going to select the subject of language arts. Language arts and then grade 4. Once you've selected the subject of language arts, grade 4, and then we're going to scroll down up until we get to the chapter of reflexive pronouns. Reflexive pronouns. And we're going to find out today what reflexive pronouns mean, right? And our chapter for today, like we said, is reflexive pronouns. Our subject is English language arts. Grade 4. And the lessons that we're going to be focusing on is to choose between personal and reflexive nouns and to use reflexive pronouns. So reflexive pronouns and to use reflexive pronouns. And we are doing our tutorial lesson on aplusstudents.ca. Right, so we are doing our tutorial lessons on aplusstudents.ca. So even after our lessons are completed, then you can always go back and then just reflect on whatever that we were teaching or that we were learning today. All right, so reflexive pronouns. So now we're going to go into what a reflexive pronoun is, right? And a reflexive pronoun or reflexive pronouns are pronouns that end in self or it ends in selves, right? So reflexive pronouns, it's pronouns that either ends in self or selves. And you get singular reflexive pronouns and you get plural reflexive pronouns. So we have reflexive pronouns. And like I say, reflexive pronouns are pronouns that either end in self or it ends in selves, right? And we have singular reflexive pronouns and we have plural reflexive pronouns. And singular reflexive pronouns, of course, refers to either one person, right? One thing that is being discussed. And plural refers to either more than one person or thing that is being discussed. And if we look at our singular, or let's say the singular subject is, of course, the person that is being discussed or that is either doing the action or that is doing something within the sentence, right? Or that we are talking about. So we said that reflexive pronouns, it tells us about it's a pronoun that ends in self, right? So if we talk about myself, or if I talk about myself, right? Or if I make mention of me or I, then it is myself, right? And then if we make mention of you, right? And then it's yourself. So you, and then it's yourself. If we make mention of either she, right? If we make mention of she, then we can say it is herself. He, himself, and it, meaning itself, right? And those are singular subjects, reflexive pronouns. And the reflexive pronouns is, of course, the myself, yourself, herself, himself, and itself, right? Then we have basically the plural subject and as well as our reflexive pronoun. So if we make mention of something that is plural, right? More than one person. So if we talk about we, right? If we talk about we, then it is ourselves. So we are doing something, we are going somewhere, it's ourselves, right? You you can either refer to one person or you can refer to more than one person. And that is yourselves, right? All right. All right. So I'll speak a bit louder, right? Okay. So I'm going to start again, right? So reflexive pronouns, right? Am I speaking loud enough now? Am I speaking loud enough? So reflexive pronouns, right? We said it's pronouns that either end in self or it ends in selves, right? And when it comes to self and it comes to selves, right? And then it means that it's either a singular subject which refers to one person or thing, right? And then selves, right? It means that we are referring to a plural subject which refers to two or more people or things, right? So we have I, which refers to myself, you, which refers to yourself, she, which refers to herself, he, which refers to himself, and it, which refers to itself. And then when we are making mention of a plural subject, right, more than one person, right, and then it is we, which we are making mention of ourselves, you, and like I say, you can either be singular, which refers to one person, or you can refer to more than one person, right? So you can refer to more than one person also, and that is yourselves, right? And then they, which is themselves. And then we have they, which refers to themselves, right? So that is both either your singular subjects with your reflexive pronouns, as well as the plural subjects and our reflexive pronouns. All right, so we helped ourselves to some more soup, right? So we helped ourselves to some more soup. So it's like basically saying we, which is our pronoun, right? The plural pronoun. And then ourselves is our reflexive pronoun. And then it says that on we is also our subject. So we is our subject. We are referring to more than one person. So the subject in the sentence is we. We is the subject that we are talking about, which means that our reflexive pronoun is ourselves. Because we is our subject and ourselves is our reflexive pronoun. Amy drives herself to work every morning. So Amy drives herself to work every morning. So Amy is our subject, right? Amy's our subject. So we can even say Amy as in she, right? Drives herself, which is the reflexive pronoun, to work in the morning. Remember, herself is the reflexive pronoun because we are making mention of the reflexive pronoun, right? So her is correct, but it's herself, right? Because we are making mention of the reflexive pronoun, right? So here's some more examples on reflexive pronoun. Remember, we are mainly making mention of reflexive pronouns, and reflexive pronouns makes mention of words like herself, himself, itself, right? Yourself. And if we are making mention of it in plural form, and then it is, for example, ourselves, themselves, right? That is now in the plural form. If it was just a personal pronoun, then we would say things like her or him or she or them, right? But a reflexive pronoun, it is herself, himself, themselves, right? Whether it is plural or singular form. And the personal pronoun is, for example, me, you, him, her, it, them, and so on, right? So, once again, a reflexive pronoun can only be used to refer to a subject, right? So, if we are making mention of a subject, that is when we use a reflexive pronoun, right? If we want to refer to someone, so if we want to refer to someone else or something else, right? And then we need to use a personal pronoun. So if we want to make mention of something else or someone else, then we use personal pronouns, right? And that is where the her, him, them comes in, right? And our personal pronouns, like I said, was me, you, him, her, it, us, or them, right? So then personal pronouns should be used instead of a reflexive pronoun. For example, Jake wrote a note to himself. So Jake is our subject. So Jake is our subject, right? So if we make mention of Jake being our subject, then we say himself. So Jake wrote a note for himself, right? Meaning Jake wrote a note for himself. So which means the reflective pronoun is himself and it refers to Jake. So himself, it refers to Jake. That is why they're saying when we use a reflexive pronoun and then it needs to refer to the subject, right? But if we write a note, if we maybe make mention that you're writing it to someone else or something else, then it needs to be a personal pronoun. And for example, here it says Jake who wrote a note for him. So which means that the personal pronoun is him and it must refer to the someone else other than the subject. So Jake referring to him, to someone else. And a reflexive pronoun, right? It's an object or object pronoun. It's basically a pronoun ending in self or selves that shows the subject of a sentence that it is the same as the object of the sentence. So, which means that if you are making mention of yourself, right, that is when we say ourselves, myself, herself, itself, right? Because you are making mention of yourself. It's something for you, right? You as a subject. But as soon as it is something for someone else or for something else, then we use a personal pronoun, right? All right, so now we're going to aplusstudents.ca and then we're going to the first lesson, which is to choose between personal and reflexive pronouns. So we are going to choose between personal pronouns and reflexive pronouns. And once again, if you look at this explanation, right, or description of what a reflexive pronoun is, it says reflexive pronouns are pronouns that end in self or selves, which we basically have explained, right? And there we have the singular subjects as well as the reflexive pronoun that goes with that singular subject or which refers to that singular subject. And then we have the plural subjects, right, referring to more than one person, and the reflexive pronouns, which refers to that people. All right, so now it says we need to select the best pronoun to complete the sentence. So we're going to select the best pronoun with a reflexive pronoun to complete the sentence. The cat curled into a ball and fell asleep. So we need to use one of the pronouns. So the cat fell, cat curled. Do we say the cat curled myself? The cat curled yourself? The cat curled herself? Or the cat curled himself or itself into a ball and fell asleep? So we need to choose the correct answer. Do we say the cat curled myself, yourself, herself, himself, or itself into a ball and fell asleep? All right, so if we look at that sentence and we can say, remember cats, if we refer to an animal, then we say itself. So the cat curled itself into a ball and fell asleep. Right? Did your teammates cheer for did your teammates cheer for ourselves, yourselves, or themselves during the baseball game? So, did your teammate cheer for ourselves, yourselves, or themselves during the baseball game? All right, so if we choose the correct reflexive pronoun, then we can say that did your teammates cheer for themselves? For themselves during the baseball game, right? Themselves or cheer for you. Oh, we're using the pronoun you, not themselves. I hope to support as an artist someday. So I hope to support. If you want to support yourself, right? Then you can say, I hope to support myself as an artist. Myself as an artist, right? Myself. All right, so now we're going on to our test. We're going to begin the test by choosing between personal or reflexive pronoun. And remember, when we choose between personal and reflexive pronoun, right? Remember, your reflexive pronoun, it refers to something, it's like you're referring to the subject. So if you the subject, if I am the subject, then I'm referring to myself, right? If you are the subject, then you're referring to yourself, right? But if you're referring to something else or someone else, and then we say that is a personal pronoun. All right. So now we're going to select the best pronoun to complete the sentence. Do I say I surround me with family and good friends, or I surround myself with family and good friends? So I surround me with my family and good friends, or I surround myself with family and good friends. All right, so if you are referring to yourself, right? Because this says I surround with family and good friends, which means that you're doing it for yourself. So we can say I surround myself with family and good friends. So it's myself, right? No, no. So myself is the answer. I hope to support. Do we say I hope to support me as an artist someday? Or I hope to support myself as an artist one day? So I hope to support me one day as an artist someday, or I hope to support myself. What is the correct answer? All right, so if we select the correct answer, we can then say, I hope to support myself as an artist someday, because you're referring to yourself. Remember, if we refer to the subject, then it is either myself, yourself, or so on. So myself. And myself is correct. Do I say I introduce me to the new students at school? Or I introduce myself to the new students at school? So I introduce me to the new students at school, or I introduce myself to the new students at school. Me or myself. All right, so if you introduced yourself, right, to the new students, then we can say, I introduced myself. So you introduced yourself. So I introduced myself, right? So well done. Myself is correct. It should help protect. It should help protect themselves during future hurricanes, or it should help protect them during future hurricanes. So it should protect themselves, or it should protect them during future hurricanes. We need to select the base pronoun or to complete the sentence. The base pronoun to complete the sentence. All right, so we will say, remember we said that if the subject, right? If the subject refers to the pronoun or the pronoun refers to the subject, then we say either themselves, yourselves, and so on. But if it does not, it refers to either something else or someone else, then we use the personal pronouns. So we can say it should protect them during future hurricanes. So them, which is the personal pronoun. So well done. Them is correct. Chimpanzees, right? Chimpanzees spend about an hour each day cleaning themselves or cleaning ourselves. So chimpanzees spend about an hour each day cleaning themselves or ourselves. So do we say themselves or do we say ourselves? So do we say chimpanzees spend about an hour each day cleaning themselves or ourselves? All right, so we can basically say that chimpanzees spend an hour each day cleaning themselves, right? So they are cleaning themselves almost every hour each day. So well done. Themselves is correct. Themselves is correct. Well done. The astronaut welcomed us aboard the space shuttle, or the astronaut welcomed ourselves aboard the space shuttle. So is it us, the astronaut welcomed us, or they welcomed ourselves? So the astronaut welcomed us aboard the space shuttle, or the astronaut welcomed ourselves aboard the space shuttle? All right, so if we select the correct answer, then we can say that the astronaut welcomed us aboard the space shuttle. So they welcomed us. So well done. Us is correct. And Mr. Hodge found itself under the kitchen table, or Mr. Hodge found it under the kitchen table. So Mr. Hodge found itself under the kitchen table, or Mr. Hodge found it under the kitchen table. Remember, we said reflexive pronouns that either end in self or selves, they refer to the subject, right? If it's not referred to the subject, then it is a personal pronoun. So then we can say Mr. Hodge found it under the kitchen table. And it is correct. Great job. All right. So now we're going on to use reflexive pronouns, right? So we had to choose between personal pronouns and reflexive pronouns, right? So now we're going to use reflexive pronouns. And remember, we said that reflexive pronouns, right, are pronouns that either ends in self or selves. And we have singular subjects, right, that refers to our reflexive pronouns. And then we have plural subjects also that refers to our reflexive pronouns. And remember, our reflexive pronouns, which is myself, yourself, herself, himself, itself, ourselves, yourself, or themselves, need to refer to the subject. If the reflexive pronoun does not refer to the pronoun, but it refers to something else or someone else, then we use a personal pronoun. So with reflexive pronouns needs to refer back to the subject of the sentence. If I'm talking about we, then it needs to be ourselves, because ourselves needs to refer back to we. So they should match the subject. Ourselves, we, yourselves, you, themselves, they, right? And a reflexive pronoun can only be used to refer to the subject. It does not refer to anything else. To refer to someone else or something else, then we use a personal pronoun. Like me, you, him, her, it, us, or them should be used instead. All right. So now we need to complete the sentence with a pronoun that refers back to the subject. So the pronoun that refers back to the subject. For example, I declare as king of the forest. Do I declare myself, yourself, herself, himself, or itself as king of the forest? All right, so we are then referring back to the subject. So if we're referring back to the subject, and then we can say, I declare myself. So I declare myself king of the forest. So I declare myself as king of the forest, right? Because myself, it refers back to I. And then it says Bob grumbled too about the long line. Bob. Bob grumbled too about the long line. We need to choose the reflexive pronoun that refers back to Bob. All right, so if we choose the reflexive pronoun that refers back to Bob, and then we can say Bob grumbled to himself, right? He grumbled to himself about the long line. So himself, it then basically refers back to Bob, right? Himself refers back to Bob. Yes, so himself is correct. And then a goat may use its horns to scratch. A goat may use its horns to scratch. What is a reflexive pronoun that refers back to a goat? All right, so we will then select that a goat may use its horns to scratch itself. Yes, itself is correct. So itself. So well done. Itself is correct. All right, now let's go on to our test. It says that we need to complete the sentence with a pronoun that refers back to the subject in bold, right? So it needs to refer back to the subject. The musicians asked themselves or asked them what they could have done better. So the musicians asked themselves what they could have done better, or the musicians asked them what they could have done better. All right, so we're going to say the musicians asked themselves what they could have done better. Remember, we are referring back to the subject. So if we're referring back to the subject, then it means that we are using a reflexive pronoun. So the musicians asked themselves what they could have done better. So themselves, because it refers back to the musicians. And then my aunt planned a vacation for herself in Hawaii or himself in Hawaii. My aunt. So we can say if we my aunt, right? My aunt is female. So we can say it is for herself, right? Yes, well done. Herself is correct. And we will design our new house by ourselves, or we will design our new house by us. We are referring back to we. So is it ourselves or is it us? And we will say ourselves. So well done. Ourselves is correct. All right, so that is the end of our lesson on reflexive pronouns. Right? Remember we said reflexive pronouns are basically pronouns that refers back to the subject, right? And reflexive pronouns it either ends in self or selves. So if it's singular, a singular subject, it refers to self or it ends in self. And if it's a plural subject, it ends in selves, right? So that is reflexive pronouns. So if a pronoun does not reflect back to or refer back to the subject, and then we basically have to write it as a personal pronoun. So, grade fours, that is the end of our lesson on reflexive pronouns. Thank you very much for joining the class. Thank you very much for being interactive. Really appreciate it. You should have an amazing evening further. Goodbye.